Welcome to All Things Moore County, Moore County's weekly radio show, highlighting the many facets of the Sandhills. That includes real estate, lifestyles, community, and neighborhood. And now, from 4 Properties, here's your host, Bill Sahadi.
Our house in the middle of our street, our house.
Good morning and welcome to the talk show, All Things Moore County. We're at Super Bowl weekend, and everyone is talking about the New England Patriots and the Seattle Seahawks, and I guess everything is going to come to a culmination tomorrow.
Yes, it will.
And you know what happens right after the Super Bowl? There's that letdown, and then a lot of guys like myself, we go, what are we going to do now for the next month or two? And then we start waiting for spring to come right around the corner.
Yep.
And it can't come soon enough after the Super Bowl is over. So one of the things that we look forward to, and really March the 14th is not anywhere as far away as we think.
It'll be here before you know it.
Yeah. In the last couple of years, I've noticed the weather. It always seems to be warm.
Yes,
you know,
it
in the
does.
60s. Sometimes we hit the 70s, March 14th, and we're only about 6 weeks away from that.
Yep.
And there's an event each year, and this is the 7th annual. And we're being joined today by 2 people who have been past guests on the show. Jill Saunders, who is the executive director of the ShamRock and Roll Road Race, which is going to be held March 14th in Whispering Pines. Jill, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm great, Bill. Thanks.
This is like your Christmas season because you're so busy getting this. This is a year-long activity for you as a volunteer.
Pretty much. I get a few months of break, and then I start, gearing up again.
Right. You were on, I think it was last year, and you raised so much money. But this year, there's a little bit of a different bent, the monies that you're raising for the ShamRock and Roll Race.
Yes, the money has always gone to schools. However, we've really, finally gotten to the exact right place as far as I'm concerned. All of the money is going to Moore County schools. Kathy Kennedy was instrumental this year in helping me match up with the Public Education Foundation and Andrew Lyons.
Right.
So through the Public Education Foundation, we will be awarding teachers grants.
Okay. We're going to talk today a lot about teachers, and we're going to announce our other guest. You might have mentioned his name, but there are very few guests we've had on the show in the last 5 or 6 years that we can, we don't have to even say who it is. We can play a clip and people will know who it is. So Dorothy, if you can, let's do that first and we'll introduce our next guest. Memories die hard. Good morning, Andrew Lyons.
Hey, good morning, Bill.
How are you?
I'm great. It's great to be here as always. Good to see you.
We one of our most memorable conversations has been with both of our mutual respect for the musical group Jethro Tull. Andrew, in another life, attended Jethro Tull concerts. His kids today probably look at that music and go, "Dad, really?"
They know a little bit more than you would think.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't think it's a surprise, but I'm taking my daughter to Fleetwood Mac.
Are you really?
In March after the race.
Are you
so
really?
yeah, I'm trying to make sure that they have good music roots.
Well, there was, when we were kids, even before you were a kid, there was Steve Allen. He was the precursor to Johnny Carson. And he used to do a routine on late night TV where he would kind of make fun of the music of the day. And how would he do it? He would take the lyrics of the songs that were popular at the time and just read them. So, Andrew, some of the lyrics to Jethro Tull, the song that we just appropriately called The Teacher, I'd love you just to read the first section or two and just see what it was that caught your attention so much as a young man.
Okay, sure, I can do that. Well, the dawn was coming, heard him ringing on my bell. He said, "My name's the teacher, that is what I call myself. And I have a lesson that I must impart to you. It's an old expression, but I must insist it's true. Jump up, look around, find yourself some fun. No sense in sitting there hating everyone. No man's an island, and his castle isn't home. The nest is for nothing when the bird is flown."
There we go.
Wow.
Isn't that pretty impressive? That caught our attention, and half of us didn't even know the words, but we loved the beat.
Yeah. Well,
Your student days are back.
that's right. And, most folks come to me and say, well, how did you like Jethro Tull? Wasn't he great?
Yeah,
And I
right.
always would say, well, no, Jethro Tull was
A group.
just a group. It's Ian Anderson that I think most people refer to as the leader of Jethro Tull. So I remember that. I don't remember all the lyrics.
No, I didn't
Yeah.
either, and I just had them printed out because I wanted to. I love the song, I love the beat, but then you read the lyrics and you go, what is it that you're listening to? YouTube has made a great foray into your children's lives, Jill, your children's lives, and all this old stuff comes back up again. But you're not here as a groupie for Jethro Tull today. We've had you on the show in the past. We've talked about lending. We've talked about real estate issues, and as a senior VP for First Bank. But you're here with Jill today in a different capacity as a president of the Public Education Foundation. And the two of you, and Jill, I love the fact that the two of you are working together. There's a synergy, a natural synergy between the two of you, a potent twosome, actually.
Yeah, very much so. Like I said, when I spoke this year with Kathy Kennedy, she's my contact, really. We speak every year about the race and the proceeds going to the schools. But when I spoke to her this year proposing teacher grants, she loved the idea, but she quite honestly asked me, do you have any idea what's involved in grants, in the grant process? And I said, I have absolutely no idea. So she was headed to a meeting with Andrew and the foundation, and she suggested that we possibly pair up. And before I could even get a call to Andrew, he called me, excited about the possibilities, and we both just felt like it was a perfect fit.
You're both parents of kids in the public school system. Jill, how many children do you have?
I have 4.
What age range are they?
17, twin 14-year-olds, and a 9-year-old.
Oh, we talked about your 17-year-old a couple of weeks ago.
Yes, we did, yes.
Great age, especially for boys.
Yeah, lots of learning going on there. Yes.
They pretty much know everything.
Absolutely, they do.
And they want to help you, but we're not ready for their help, right? At 17.
Yes, yes.
And Andrew, you have 3 children?
I have 3, 13-year-old boy and 10-year-old boy-girl twins. That's the other synergy between Jill and myself. We made it through so far parenting twins. So,
well, the cause is important, but the event has taken on a life of its own. It's one of those calendar events that people mark during the course of a year, and then the start of spring, when ShamRock and Roll hits Whispering Pines, everyone knows spring is right around the corner.
Yes, they do. One of the best pieces of advice I got 7 years ago when we started the race was to tie it to an event, a calendar event. And at the time, there was nothing, strong in the spring. So we chose St. Patrick's Day. That was just a fabulous piece of advice as far as I'm concerned, because it gets people out on the same weekend every year. They dress up, they look crazy, they're wearing all kinds of green and gold, and it just is a lot of fun. So, despite, some of my, lack really of even promotion at times, people have really, taken to the race, and they get excited and look forward to it every year.
You've got a a website?
I do.
Where people can go to get information, because you're registering people now, and what age groups participate in the event?
Any age group, really. I've had runners and walkers from 2 years old up to probably about 90, actually, and I've had runners from about 8 different states. I typically have someone, represented from a good many states in the surrounding area.
The website.
The website is www.ShamRock, the letter N, rollrace.com.
Right. And each year you get more and more community support from, we always say in the show, Moore County is such a giving community. Andrew, we've talked about that.
We sure have, yeah.
And you've been involved in so many different events. Most recently, it was Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader? You were on with some of the students we had, which was a lot of fun. But this is as important as anything in Moore County, because the lifeblood of a county, you could make an argument with all the changing demographics, the school system.
Exactly. And Jill's being somewhat humble,
Very humble
on this, and to paint this picture that it's the two of us doing this is completely false.
Right.
She's a whirlwind, and it just happened. I mean, she built this. This is her baby.
Right.
And but yes, Kathy Kennedy sort of put us together, and she was kind enough to come to a couple of our board meetings. She came to Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader? And then she and I went and had lunch, and after about 15 or 20 minutes, it was just so obvious that what we wanted was the same thing. And so we're just delighted that the proceeds of this great event are going to go to the Public Education Foundation. And yeah, we can help because we've already got the whole grant process in place. We're able to do all the things that Jill wants us to do with the money, which is a fantastic thing.
Right.
So we can also provide some folks, our board members, who are going to go out and help promote this race. And quite frankly, we just want more folks to be there on March 14th, and we want students and teachers and parents and grandparents and community folks all to come out and know that the money is going to a really great cause.
Yeah. You had typically you get about 900 to 1,000 participants a year.
I do. 1,000 is definitely reasonable. We have that every year, and I would say before I even really hit the ground running this year, somehow word had gotten out to some schools already that teams are definitely welcome. And New Century Middle School, for instance, contacted me and said that they were already getting together a team of hopefully 75 kids.
Yeah.
And that, again, was prior to my even letting anyone know that this year I'd be awarding some cash prizes to the top 3 participating schools.
Right.
So, yes, there's a lot of interest in it, and I'm hoping and really quite optimistic that with schools getting teams together that we can easily surpass 1,000.
Yeah. So I'm going to tell you something, Andrew, about Jill. Over the last 6 or 7 years, the one thing that I've noticed about her with this event is her dogged consistency and her resilience, where people sometimes get behind a cause and they'll get emotional and they'll do something and they'll rise and then they'll subside, right? It's like a wave. Right. Every year, it's like clockwork. I get emails, I get a visit, I get an eyeball-to-eyeball conversation about the event. And we get lots of people, as you do, who come through your doors, right? And everyone comes in and you make that judgment. You know, are they just talking the talk or are they walking the walk? We have a walker with us today, don't we?
We sure do.
Right.
And talking a little bit about this community, it's 8 years now that I've been here, and obviously everyone knows it as a golf community, but as you get here and you spend more time, you peel off the layers and you find all of these other different interests. And this community is a great running community. I mean, there are a lot of races here. People will support these things. So this is just another great event on sort of on the Sandhills Race Series. And once again, the benefit of the proceeds going to help the schools in this day and age is a win-win.
Yeah, Jill, he brings up something that's really interesting. In the last 7 years, this is your 7th year, correct?
Correct.
So the demographics of Moore County have changed a lot in the last 7 years. And there's this subculture here of, as he was alluding to, health and wellness.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have a running event. And so you get some very good runners, and you get people who are just out to participate. But everyone loves to do something that's, if it has to do with health and wellness, don't they? That's another thing that's hooked up well for you.
Absolutely, they do. I mean, the trend is, across the country, there are more and more people getting involved in races. It's really a hot, item right now.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing that's interesting to me too, and I can see it in the trends, my registrations, typically, the 5K is always more attended than the other distance races. But for whatever reason this year, so far my highest participation is in the 10K. So it just speaks to me of the trends in health and fitness, and really the demographics of our county also. We have more families, younger participants. I have a lot of kids that are able to run 6 miles, believe it or not, young kids that do. So I'm happy with the trend in the participation of the, higher distance race.
Yeah, and I'd like to just add it's just great to see all the different ages and the young kids, and it's just a great way for families to spend a morning. I mean, it's really neat to see a father running with a daughter, and a son running with a grandmother. I mean, it's really neat.
He's right about that. There's some of my favorite pictures. I love to stand at the finish line and get the pictures. And I told Andrew before, it's very much to me kind of like the Field of Dreams feeling. I get there early. It's hazy a little bit. It's a little chilly in the morning, and then the cars start coming. People start, and they're everywhere. And then like I said, about 1,000 people participating, but they're spectators also.
Mm-hmm.
So there's just people everywhere, and you kind of get a little misty-eyed thinking, they're coming to this.
Mm-hmm.
But at the finish line, I take as many pictures as I can. And some of my favorite ones are the parents with the kids. When they cross the finish line, they're high-fiving, they're hugging. Some of them are crying a little bit because they've reached a goal they didn't anticipate that they would actually meet. And it's just exciting to see. But the kids and the families together are really what, gets me.
And those kids will have those pictures of themselves with their parents 10, 15, 20 years from now. So you've created something you should be very proud of.
Oh, thank you.
We're going to come back in the second set. We're going to talk a little more about, Jill, I want to talk about your motivation for doing this. And I want to talk, Andrew, about the Public Education Foundation, one of the core organizations that you're heading up. This is All Things Moore County. We'll be right back. We're back, second segment of All Things Moore County. We're talking about the ShamRock and Roll Race, but we're really talking about a lot of things behind the race, what it stands for, the public education system in Moore County. And Jill is a mom. 7 years ago, 6 years ago, 8 years ago maybe, can you walk us through how this, what were you thinking? How did this come to be? Where did it come from?
Well, it started off with me being on the board, on the PTA board at Sandhills Farm Life Elementary, and I had the idea to create a race, really focusing on healthy living, and at the time, all of the proceeds went to Sandhills Farm Life, and that was true for several years. And after I left Farm Life, and things, didn't, the momentum really was, was what I was bringing to it. And quite honestly, it's nothing about me in particular. It's just there came a point when it just made sense to take it nonprofit, which is what I did. And at the time, I didn't know how, if I would receive nonprofit status, and I thought, that was my plan A. Plan B was, something else, not quite sure what that was, but I was approved easily for the nonprofit, and everything just really fell into place. I feel like I've had very few roadblocks along the way, and it just evolved every year into something a little bit different, moving into the right direction. Mm-hmm. And like I said previously, I really think that along the way we've been moving towards this point right now where we're working with the foundation and money is going to teacher grants. I've never been unhappy with how the money's been used. If I was, I wouldn't have given the money, but I'm perfectly happy to raise as much money as I can. I kind of nickel and dime all of my expenses and keep it as tight as I can so that I can give as much money away, and I want that bottom line to be as huge as possible. So I have not been unhappy with how the money's been used in the past. I just wanted this year to really reach a broader audience, and considering teacher pay, how schools are really always in need of funds, it just makes sense to me to be able to reward teachers through grants, and I think we can give away quite a bit of money.
When you were a member of the PTA, your children were in the Farm Life School?
That's right.
So today, that's not the case?
I do have one at Farm Life.
Oh, you do?
Now.
Still?
I have quite a spread there, but everyone else is Union Pines and New Century.
Okay. You kind of remind me of the antithesis of the football father whose son is a varsity player in high school. And he's a big booster, and he's real active at the games. And then his son goes to college, and then the father disappears. Mm-hmm. And you have stayed on, and you are continuing the fight over all these years.
Well, I have. And, I think I've said in the past, my mom lives in Texas, and she has asked me in the past, Jill, when are you going to, give up this race to someone else? Mm-hmm. And I said, probably never. It's a lot of work, but it's like Andrew said before, it's my baby. I love it.
Right.
I probably will, well, at least in the near future, I don't see any passing the torch, really. I have a passion for it.
Andrew won't let you, I don't think.
Yeah. It's a great thing. I truly love it. And when you mentioned previously about sponsorship, you were there from the very beginning, so you've been a consistent sponsor every year. And I can genuinely say that most of my sponsors have been there from the beginning, and they've remained very true to the cause. Mm-hmm. Aside from, a few other things that aren't quite in my wheelhouse, asking for money is not one of my favorite things to do.
Right.
But I do it because I believe in this. Yep. I do, and as far as sitting down face-to-face with someone, I think I'm a pretty good judge of character, and I can read people pretty well. Uh-huh. And if someone came to me without a real genuine feel for what they're doing, I wouldn't be likely to give them money. So I I think I'm pretty in tune to that, and I try to do what I think is the right thing to be able to keep good, consistent sponsors.
Yeah. I'm a pretty good judge of character, too, and I can tell if somebody is coming from a real place or if they're just sort of throwing feathers on the honey. And so that is what one-on-one compels me. If I see somebody that's passionate about something and it's a cause you believe in, it's worth. There's something about you that says sign up with her, and that's what I think some of the community people get about you, and I think that's probably one of the reasons it's been so successful. Don't you think, Andrew?
Without a doubt.
Huh?
I mean, without a doubt. What a great example of one person putting her mind to something and getting it done. It's a great example for all the listeners out there. I mean, Jill has just worked tirelessly at this, and she doesn't want credit.
Right.
She just
humble, very humble.
She just wants to do this thing and to help the community. And as soon as we saw that, I mean, I just tried to figure out some way that we could partner up because I wanted to be involved.
Well, you guys are both, in a lot of ways, you're both cut from the same cloth as I can see. I've seen you when you first came on the show, you moved here from Northern Virginia, and you talked about Moore County and what a great place for your family, and you were comparing Moore County to Northern Virginia. And you've been a real strong advocate of so many parts of living here and raising a family here. And now you're so involved with the education system as well.
I think, I mean, you have to be. I mean, if your kids are going to school here, you better be involved. Yeah. I mean, it's the most important thing you can do.
Right.
It really is. And this is a great place, and we've talked about it, and we love it here. It's a jewel, and I believe that we all owe it to give back to the community. And it's not something that you do and want pats on the back. You do it because you love the place that you live, and you want your kids to have a better place to grow up.
You know what? What you just said is so true. In this community, where one-on-one marketing and getting to know people is so important, you tell people, do things that you believe in. Don't do things because you think that's the right place to be. People will see right through it, and people are transparent. And don't do it with any ulterior motive other than if you're being yourself and you're doing what you like, the rest people will follow, and things will happen. And it takes time, and you can't do it like in 3 weeks on a steroid-laced marketing program. You're laughing because you've seen people come and go doing that.
Sure, yeah. It doesn't last. You got to be genuine.
Right.
And in this day and age where everything is at your fingertips,
right.
That's hard for some folks. The instant gratification and all that. This takes a little bit of work. I mean, like Jill said, she takes a couple months off and then she's back at it. Yeah. It's about 9 months of work for one day.
Right.
I mean, think about that. In this day and age, it's great stuff.
What do you hope to raise this year for the public school system? What's your goal?
Typically, $15,000 is reasonable per year. Honestly, that's a lot of money, and I know that brings some shock to some to hear that. But I think it can be so much more. I genuinely do. Mm-hmm. We have such a huge, customer base here, really, when you consider, not only the county, but the schools, how many students we have to pull from and the parents from the schools. So 15 to 20,000, I think, is an easy estimate to be able to give back to teachers.
Yeah. There are, Andrew, there are over 650 nonprofit organizations in Moore County. There are so many good causes. The toughest challenge I think that some of the people have is how do they differentiate themselves from the rest of the pack to get a message out there. So what you've done over these years is you've kind of created a branding for the ShamRock and Roll race that people can hang their hat on, where there are other very good causes, but they don't have the ability to get something to stick to the wall, and people are like, where do I go? What do I do? But you have created a branding for the event, and that kind of puts it into the like the A tier, I think, don't you?
I do. I
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah. The show that you do each year, You're Smarter Than a Fifth Grader, has achieved that same branding. It's in people's mind; they know it's there, and
I hope so. And you're kind to say that.
but it does. I think it does.
Yeah, and the common theme there is kids. Kids, and I've said this before on the show, Bill. I think it's a travesty that there has to be a public education foundation of Moore County. I mean, the fact that there has to be a separate nonprofit to raise money to give to teachers is criminal. Right. But this is what we're living with, and so between the fifth grader event and our Hall of Fame dinner, and now this event, we hope to be able to give back to teachers over $50,000 as they come to us with grants, and that is huge. And those grants, some of those grants affect 10 kids, some of those grants affect 1,000 kids. So we're talking about ways to impact the way that our kids are learning, that with funds that they're not being made available to the schools. So
why, in your opinion, and we'll probably get into this in the third set, North Carolina nationally does not rank very high at all in terms of teacher pay, and there's been a lot of information in the papers and social media, teachers leaving the state, being recruited. The schools are not undercrowded. As a matter of fact, just the opposite. They're getting more crowded. Teachers have tremendous responsibility.
You said it earlier, Bill. Lots of great nonprofits, lots of great causes out there. I don't think that there is a single thing that is more important than education.
Right.
And the work that our teachers do, it's incredible. One of the great things, I get to see these teachers that come to us to present their grants, and the passion that they have. It's just, you can't compare it to anything else. And for what they do, and for what they get paid,
11 cents an hour.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, it really is.
And so you can't convince me that there is anything more important than education. And I hope that somehow, some way, the folks that make the decisions can figure that out.
So the foundation's reason for being is to help facilitate the raising of funds to help augment or to make up the voids or the shortfalls.
That's exactly right. We're in our 28th year.
Okay.
And last year we gave out about $30,000, about 20 different grants, and we hope to do more than that, thanks to Jill and what she's doing.
We're going to come back in the third set and start a little more detailed conversation about the race, about the event, and about some of the reasons it's so important. This is All Things Moore County. We're back in the final set talking about the ShamRock and Roll Race with Andrew Lyons and Executive Director Jill Saunders, and March 14th is the date. Before we go right back into the some of the specifics about the event on the 14th, Andrew, we were talking a little bit about teacher salaries in the state of New Jersey, for example, and I have a feeling Virginia is probably the same. A teacher coming out of school, they start in the high 20s, low 30s. Tenured teachers, 20 years into their job in the public education system, they are upwards of almost six figures. Elementary school teachers. It's mind-boggling, the amount of monies with tenured teachers, but just the starting salaries in so many other states are so much higher than North Carolina. Is it because in our state, is it the state budget? Is it there has to be some reason they're so poorly paid?
There has to be. I wish I knew all the reasons for it, but when you hear numbers like that,
yeah.
I mean, is it something as simple as the importance of the education and those folks and the lawmakers and the people that set the budget,
right?
Or are there other factors? I mean, believe me, I know it's a tough job to dole out the money from Raleigh and from Washington, but somehow, somewhere along the way, we've been left behind, and we are just stragglers here, and it's a shame.
I've read recruiting efforts from schools from out of state coming in trying to recruit North Carolina teachers. I mean, it's a terrible. If that doesn't get the attention of the lawmakers, what would?
Well, that's true. I mean, we know of folks who will drive 30 or 40 minutes to South Carolina. To make $5,000 or $7,000 more, and you can't blame the teachers for that. Right. Breaks their heart to leave the kids here, but they've got to provide for their families. So it's a tough situation, and it's got to improve because it's about as bad as it can be right now.
Do you think the chances of taxes being increased to help better fund the school system is something that lawmakers will look at?
I think they should, yes.
In New Jersey, real estate taxes are quintuple what they are down here.
Right, and I don't want to get too many folks mad at me here for that, but where I came from,
right,
we paid about $12,000 a year
right.
in taxes,
right.
and but those schools were well funded, and those teachers were well taken care of.
Right. Yeah, in New Jersey, a $700,000 home pays an upwards of $20,000 in real estate taxes. I have a feeling that the schools are getting a little bit of a higher share. But Moore County is such a great place to be, and it's worth fighting for, and it's worth making it better, and that's what what you guys are doing or trying to do, and every little bit helps. So this year, you've had, in the last 6 events, I guess, you've had some loyal sponsors. You continue to grow your sponsorships, the participation from the community, and you want to talk a little bit about the sign-up costs and what people will look for when they go onto the website? Registration forms?
Yes. Let me start by saying that every student in this county, regardless of school, regardless of whether it's public or private,
right.
receive a $5 discount. Same for any school staff member, teacher, custodian, whomever. So they do